Hey, it's Pauline from ChronicallySpicy, and I am currently working on responding to questions and commenting on mast cell, POTS, and EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome related content on TikTok because research is how I process everything, and it's basically one of my special interests. So I basically turn myself into my own research study to advocate for myself and get diagnosed because it took me 15 years to get a diagnosis. Absolutely crazy, but unfortunately, that's the norm. All right, so I'm going to get to this video. On TikTok, I'm also chronically spicy. The video that I'm responding to on TikTok is about the connection between POTS and mast cell activation syndrome and EDS. So give me 1 second because I'm going to show you everything that I'm also going to be sharing over here. All right, so if we are talking about, let's see here, POTS, 1 second. That says EDS, no. Let's see. 1 minute. Here we go. Found it. All right. This is the one that we want to share. All right, so I am looking at the comorbidities of MCAS from this. That's from Mast Cell United. I think that's the wrong one. 1 second. Let's do this again. Here we go. Excuse me. All right, here we go. Mast cell activation in Ehlers-Danlos patients. Found it. Mast cell activation in Ehlers-Danlos patients. This is from the Mayo Clinic. And here we go. And this was published March 11th, 2022. Make sure you check out my YouTube channel, please, and subscribe because playlists. All right. So according to the Mayo Clinic, mast cell disorders and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, the role that mast cells play in EDS, there was a study that was published in 2017, which I can do a read on in another video, published in 2017 in the American Journal of Medical Genetics seminars in medicine genetics. Mast cells are inner cells that are primarily located in tissues throughout the body, including connective tissue, which are key sites often affected during EDS. Mast cells play an important role in initiating and promoting immune responses to pathogens, virus, bacterial, etc., even bee stings, mold, by releasing different kinds of mediators such as histamines, tryptase, and chymase within minutes of their activation. There we go. There we go. All right, so mast cells have a role in both allergic and non-allergic diseases by responding with IgE-mediated allergy and IgG non-allergy. Those are usually the delayed reactions that show up on functional medicine doctor type tests and home blood testing. And one disease that mast cells are often involved in are connective tissue disorders such as EDS and its subtypes, including hypermobile EDS and HSD, hypermobility spectrum disorder, which I was diagnosed with. A past article Consegration of postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, POTS, hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and mast cell activation syndrome in the Annals of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology describe symptoms compatible with non-IgE mediated mast cell disorder in patients with joint hypermobility syndrome with a positive response to classical MC mediator antagonists, but normal level of plasma histamines and serum tryptase. So basically, in short, that whole you only have MCAS if your mast cell, if you have elevated tryptase is not true. Only about 30% of patients with mast cell activation syndrome actually show elevated tryptase even during a flare. And it looks like I'm gonna have to do a separate video on the consecration of on that study that's going to be linked, the consecration of POTS and HEDS and MCAS, because we got to get all the acronyms in there. So an immunologist and colleagues suggested a new disease cluster, mast cell activation syndrome, POTS, and EDS, a possible new disease cluster with patients having mast cell. It's not new. We've been living with this forever. Medicine's just catching up. The article on Mayo Clinic goes on to say that the causes between the three, known as the trifecta, are not clear yet. And let's see here. Families with an elevated baseline serum tryptase, which was associated with the triad of dysautonomia, mast cell activation diseases, and joint hypermobility. Observation from these papers show increasing evidence that MCAS can be associated with connective tissue disorders like HEDS and HSD. More research to come. Stay connected as we explore these topics in future posts. And it's co-authored by 3 PhDs. So I will make sure that I link this one in the description box on YouTube as soon as I am finished with the first live, because I'm kind of doing a session for multiple videos here. So let's go to the next one real quick. We're looking for mast cell and POTS. Here we go. Let's see. We want to look at, there we go, that one. Share this tab instead, and we're going to open up this bad boy. All right, this is from the Dysautonomia International Dysautonomia Dispatch. I'll link that in the YouTube channel description box too. A tale of two syndromes, POTS and MCAS. So there seems to be growing awareness. This was published in 2015 in the medical community and patient community that some patients with POTS also have mast cell activation syndrome, MCAS. It's not clear at the time what the relationship is between the two or how common this overlap is, but I can tell you it's pretty freaking common for the people I know. This is an extremely complicated intersection of two poorly understood illnesses. That's a fact. So there are more questions than answers right now. Also not disputing that. I'm assuming if you're reading this blog, you understand what POTS is, but the concept of what mast cells might do could be foreign. So let me put it right. The article goes on to say that they're assuming that people who are reading this article are already familiar with POTS, and that's what brought them here. But the concept of what the mast cells and how they're involved in all of this might not be something you're familiar with. Mast cells for the last century have been understood primarily in the context of allergic disease. They are central cells in immediate allergic reactions to things like peanuts or bee stings. They secrete histamine and lead to the formulation of hives and itchy rashes, and sometimes anaphylactic reactions. I have chronic anaphylaxis with my MCAS. More recently, researchers discovered that mast cells have an important role in wound healing. I have really bad wound healing, and in the regulation of the immune system and in keeping us healthy. These roles, as well, are not well understood. Surprise, surprise. Let's see. The article goes on to say that mast cells are present throughout most of our body. They can also be paired with neurons, nerve cells, including autonomic nerve fibers. Mast cells secrete up to 200 different chemical responses to different stimuli. All right. So mast cells can release up to 200 different chemicals in response to different stimuli. Doctors usually think of mast cell secretion as an all or nothing phenomenon. For example, the mast cell is releasing high quantities of histamine, prostaglandins, and leukotrienes at the time of an allergic reaction, or the mast cells resting quietly doing nothing. However, this is probably not the case, as most MCAS is constantly interacting with the environment, sensing and reacting, and in some people, this process might not work correctly. Yeah, I'm one of those people. I'm people. Hi. So yeah, mast cells are involved in or connected to abdominal pain, cramping, diarrhea, flushing, itching, wheezing, coughing, and lightheadedness, potential problems with brain fog, and other difficulties with memory. Let's see, I'm looking. Oop, I forgot to share on YouTube. Let's find this. There's the right one. All right. Let's see, we are on the dysautonomia page. Dysautonomia International. All right, here's the important part relating to POTS. For most people with POTS, the tryptase level is normal and they don't have mastocytosis. In these patients, we need to look for other clues that their mast cells are not functioning normally. There are many different chemicals that come out of mast cells and can be measured. Substances like histamine, prostaglandin, and leukotrienes are usually measured in a 24-hour urine sample. I got mine done in a blood test in 5 minutes at the Mayo Clinic. And if the symptoms fit and the patient has evidence of making too much of a mast cell chemical, many physicians are then willing to diagnose MCAS and move on to treatment. Word of caution, according to yeah, I do that a lot. Hi, ADHD. Okay. A word of caution about laboratory testing from Dysautonomia International is that labs need to be sent on ice. If the labs are drawn at a facility that does not understand what is necessary, the samples are going to come back falsely normal. So there's a lot of this is why mast cell activation syndrome testing is inaccurate and sometimes completely wrong at best. I had a doctor who was like, your tryptase is normal, you're fine, like 4 times. And after that, she like refused to test me. And guess what? My leukotriene levels are through the roof. And I got first diagnosed with the consensus 2 by Dr. Lawrence Efron. And then it was confirmed at the Mayo Clinic with the leukotriene levels. So advocate for yourself. If you think something's wrong, keep looking for a doctor until you find one that's going to listen and help you figure out what is wrong. Stay safe. Let's see. The article goes on to say treatments are complex and individualized and beyond the scope of a single blog post. The take-home point is if you have POTS and another form of dysautonomia and have some other symptom that seem allergic, like the ones mentioned above, you might want to ask your doctor about getting tested for MCAS. While any doctor can order a test, an allergist or immunologist is the type of doctor that is most likely to be familiar with testing for MCAS. I have a point with that one. We'll talk about that one in a future video because I've had issues with that. This was written by Dr. Andrew White, a board-certified internal medicine and allergy and immunology doctor practicing at Scripps Clinic in San Diego, California, focusing on immune deficiencies and allergic disorders, including MCAS and mastocytosis. His research focuses on aspirin-exacerbated respiratory diseases. Interesting. All right. So we're going to put that one in drafts putting that one in drafts. 1 second here. One second. All right. 1 second. We're going to look and see what else needs to be looked at. Any questions that I have to actually answer? Let's check. All right. I'm going to open up my TikTok channel or TikTok page so that I can go to some of the videos that I would like to share with you. But first, we are going to look at, let's see, does MCAS cause POTS? And I already read that one. Oh, but we wanted to read more, didn't we? Let's look at the relationship between mast cell activation syndrome, POTS, and hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS. I'm going to go live on TikTok. Let's just do this at the same time. Just because I got a little bit of time here. All right. Let's go. Hey, it's Pauline from Chronically Spicy, and I am working on a live on YouTube also. And if you'd like to follow along and actually see what I'm sharing over here with the split screen, I would highly recommend you hop on over there and say hello. Please subscribe to my channel, like, comment, and share the videos. And the reason that I'm actually over here is because, well, after after the live stream's over, it stays up as a video. So bonus. But if you have questions about mast cell activation syndrome, POTS, or EDS, or how they might be connected, let me know. Please like, please heart, please tap the screen, because the clock app does not like me right now. I used to hit viral on all the videos, and now I'm at 2. I get double-digit views, so good times. But I'm still here because I know there are people who look for my videos on this stuff because I've been living with this crap for so long. And my daughter and I were just diagnosed this past summer with mast cell activation syndrome and with, confirmed. And also she was diagnosed with EDS and POTS, and I was diagnosed with, she was diagnosed with hypermobility spectrum disorder localized, generalized. She's one of the youngest patients that her PT's ever seen, and she also is like one of the most hypermobile patients her PT's ever seen. She also has POTS that's severe enough, and she's 17, that that our care team, because we saw the same doctors, told us that she needed to be in a wheelchair for longer outings and not standing for longer than 10 minutes at a time, especially when it's hot outside. So I just got a reminder that if I want to pin my gift goal, if you'd like to give something cool, if not, no big deal. I know that everybody's strapped right now. All right, so I just filmed a video for TikTok on replying to somebody else who has POTS and is trying to figure out the connective, like trying to figure out the whole MCAS, POTS, EDS trifecta, and like how they're connected. Is there like a gene? Is there like a gene mutation? What's going on? I'm not a scientist, but I think I've pretty much earned like a couple of like imaginary doctorate degrees. If Taylor Swift can earn one, I think I got one because I've been researching for the last 17 years to keep myself alive. Okay. My MCAS was triggered when I was pregnant, and I had a complex pregnancy. I was hospitalized 3 times for hyperemesis gravidarum, severe morning sickness, full term. I was on Zofran the whole time, and required 4 bags of saline solution just to get myself to baseline for hydration because I couldn't even keep water down until I was put on Zofran. And every single trimester, the insurance company was like, "You don't need that anymore. Morning sickness only lasts for 12 weeks." Really now? Okay. So I'd end up back in the ER, and the doctors there were like, "Yeah, so we're going to write your insurance company another letter, and we're going to give them a call." And lo and behold, I'd get another refill, another prescription for the Zofran. Slight side quest. I'm allergic to an ingredient that's an anti-nausea medication, including Zofran, but I didn't know that until after, because it doesn't matter, because that medication is actually why I and my kid, who is now 17, are still here. So yeah, walk through fire for your babies. Yeah, pregnancy was hell. I was on bed rest at 5 months. My blood pressure, I developed preeclampsia. I'd always had normal blood pressure before then, and everything turned into like a complete and total show at about 4 months. So yeah, I was put on bed rest at 5 months. All right. So I am on YouTube right now, and I am also live streaming over here. And the article that I'm going to be reading is, one second, let me find it. Is it this one? So we're going to look at the many comorbidities of mast cell from Mast Cell United on, yeah, Mast Cells United. That's the first article that I want to show you. So the many comorbidities of MCAS. This was published in 2018. Okay. Now note, if you have MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome, or EDS or POTS, it's very likely that if your doctor is aware, they are going to, or at least I hope, at least look at and have you examined and evaluate you for the other 2 of what is referred to as the trifecta, because it's POTS, EDS, and mast cell activation syndrome. Okay. Yeah, big deal. And all of this got a whole lot of press after the pandemic because long COVID was became associated with and was covered in multiple research papers regarding the connection to mast cell activation syndrome. Because even though I might think the whole and this is just a personal opinion because I'm not a doctor and I'm not giving medical advice, but even though I think that there's a lot of bunk mixed in with the root cause thing, because saying there's a root cause for mast cell activation syndrome, whether or not it's intended, kind of leads to the thinking that, well, if I fix the cause, I can cure myself and make it go away. That's not how mast cell activation syndrome works. It's a chronic condition, and while you might experience symptoms or times of remission, it's a chronic illness. It's always there. Okay, like it's always there. So if there's any practitioners or naturopathic doctors, functional medicine doctors, personal coaches who are trying to tell you that they can cure your mast cell or that they can help you live a symptom-free life. They're trying to sell you something. They're trying to sell you something. Hey, Jess, how you doing? And it's usually like, their program, their diet plan, their, whatever. But mast cell activation cannot be cured. Period. I'd like it to be, but it can't be cured. Not yet. All right. All right. So this is from, Mast Cell United. All right. So we're going to read this. And if you'd like to, please, 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 please hop on over to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe because I am trying to get that channel up to 1,000 subscribers before my birthday, the day after Christmas. So, cheapest birthday present ever. And I do the research for you. And I can even invite you on my YouTube channel for a hey, let's research this together session. All right. So if you hop on over and you leave a comment and let me know what you're interested in me looking up next, I'm more than happy to do that. All right. So the article, let's see. A frequent question that I get from newly diagnosed patients is what conditions go hand in hand with MCAS? The short answer is research in this area is in its infancy. When was this published? 2018. It's okay. I had an allergist tell me on Monday, this Monday, 2024, that after I got there, waited 2 weeks for the appointment, told me that he wasn't going to charge me for the appointment because he didn't realize that I had mast cell activation syndrome. And if he had known and had looked at my chart before I got to the office at 10 o'clock in the morning after a 40-minute drive, he would have canceled on me because he doesn't know a lot about mast cells, which I appreciate him being honest about that. But he also went on to say that not a lot of doctors are aware about mast cell activation syndrome. Not a lot of. I was like, any other allergist you can refer me to? And he was like, yeah, no, there isn't a whole lot known about mast cell activation syndrome. And I was like, there was a lot I wanted to say. Instead, I just said, oh, okay, thank you. And nodded my head like a good little girl, because that's what we're supposed to do in doctor's offices, because if we know too much, then and we know too many medical terms, we might get the wrong labels. Yeah. So yeah, ask me how I know. Funny, not funny. All right. All right. So let's get to this article from Mast Cell United. All right. So the comorbidities. The disease itself, MCAS, has only been coined for a decade, so there's a scarcity of high-quality evidence to evaluate in this area, and none of the research concludes causality. So far, it's more about potential associations. Makes sense. Oops. All right. In terms of conditions that appear to have the greatest amount of research among the MCAS patient population, POTS, post-orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS, and hypermobile spectrum disorder, HSD, are two conditions that consistently report findings and association with MCAS. That's why they're called the trifecta, or according to Mast Cell United, over on the other side of the pond, it's called the terrible triad, due to the sense that the three conditions seem to gang up on certain patients all at once. One of them would be my daughter. And I have two of the three. And I also have Havix-Pix, and I also have Behçet's disease, which I need to see if that's connected to mast cell activation syndrome, because it only flares up when my mast cells are out of, mast celling. Again, anybody who's joining, please hop on over to YouTube if you're not already there. Subscribe, comment, like, share, all that good business, because we need to get our advocacy out of the little bubble that we're in on TikTok and move it over to the mainstream for YouTube, because there aren't a lot of people talking about these conditions, except for, I think I've seen like a few videos from patients, and I see a lot of videos from different clinicians and functional medicine doctors, and some make sense and some don't, and I'll be replying to those separately in a different live on YouTube at a different point in time. Please make sure you hit the like button and everything so that we can get this out there, because I would love to see everybody here. I would love to see you guys start your own YouTube channels, just an account, just so you can comment and interact with creators who are talking about the same conditions, and help spread the word, help share, and help, get the word out. Because for a doctor to tell me in 2024, last Monday, that allergists don't know about MCAS, you guys, seriously. Anyway, in terms of the conditions that appear to have the greatest amount, we already talked about that. Okay. When it comes to the more all-encompassing umbrella of mast cell activation diseases, which includes systemic mastocytosis, and that's the most severe of the mast cell activation disease, umbrella. The list of potential comorbidities is much more varied. For the purposes of this article, the author says they'll stick to focusing on what conditions tend to be associated specifically with MCAS alone, not mastocytosis. Okay. A handful of research currently exists that has attempted to evaluate the prevalence of the following conditions, specifically in response or in relation to MCAS: EDS, POTS, cancer, IBS, and fibromyalgia syndrome. Oh yeah, my daughter and I both have fibro. By the way, side note, I was told by a doctor who wrote the official Mayo Clinic guide to fibromyalgia that if you have EDS, you are 80 to 90% likely to also have fibro. My daughter and I were both diagnosed at the Mayo Clinic by the doctor who wrote this book. So if you have questions, check that out. I've had people in my comment section tell me that if you have EDS, it's either EDS or fibro, and that there's, that they've had their EDS or their fibro diagnostic removed when the other one was diagnosed, and the doctors at Mayo Clinic are like, no. It's usually both. It's crazy. All right, MCAS, EDS, and POTS. EDS and POTS are clear front runners in terms of conditions that have been specifically studied in the MCAS patient population. They are both so common that they will have a future in-depth blog post of their own soon. Awesome. I will have to go back and look for those. The hypermobile type of EDS, the only type without an identified genetic mutation. That's what my daughter and I both have. Well, we actually have HSD, hypermobile spectrum disorder. Hers is generalized, mine is localized. But I think I saw something recently about studies talking about how the HSC is actually just going to be called EDS from now on. So, because they're treated the same, they cause the same problems. The only difference is whether or not there's like a specific gene present. And I don't know about you, but if I pushed that out of this body and she has what I have, I'm going to say there's genes involved. Just a guess. Let's see. So, let's see. Okay, so yeah, the hypermobile EDS, only type identified without genetic mutation, appears to be more commonly associated with MCAS. So some patients do test positive genetically for other types. It's important that patients with suspected EDS are tested and have specialist monitored care, as a number of more serious complications can occur with the disease, including Chiari malformation, idiopathic intracranial hypertension. I have to get her checked for that because she explained to me, my 17-year-old, we're both autistic. So like we have a really, we don't have the words to explain like, or the ability to identify. We respond to and identify and feel pain and symptoms differently than neurotypical people. So like if I'm, it took her until like 2 months ago to tell me that sometimes her brain feels like it's literally being squeezed from the inside of her skull. And I'm like, that's not good. So yeah, we'll be looking at we'll be looking at that when I can get her in with the right specialists locally or the local Mayo Clinic now that we're back in the Upper Midwest. There is a Mayo Clinic that is, I think, 45 minutes away. So since I'm already in the system, I'm gonna see if we can get in over there. Vix Pix, let me know if you want to go live. All right. It's important that patients with suspected EDS, I already said that. Oh, no. Yeah, it's important for patients with suspected EDS are tested and have special monitored care, as a number of more serious complications can. I already read that. Okay, so there's also several types of POTS, and the hyperadrenergic type is a rare type in the general population, but has been reported to be more commonly associated with MCAS. I don't have POTS according to the tilt table test. But I can tell you that when I have a mast cell activation triggered anaphylactic reaction, my heart feels like it's going to beat out of my chest. And one of my most notable reactions this past year was me sitting at the kitchen table for an hour and a half, trying to breathe my way through an MCAS dump, histamine dump, with a heart rate of 126 while I was sitting still. Because at that time I was still afraid to use epi because I didn't realize that with my ADHD brain, it was going to do the opposite of what it does to people without ADHD. Like coffee and stimulant medication, it actually calms my heart, brings my heart rate down, stops the panic, and yeah, crazy. So yeah, now I use epi when I'm supposed to because Mayo Clinic said to epi every single time my face swells. That's every day. But I can tell you, I only epi once for like every 3 reactions that I have, because I usually have 2 to 4 reactions a day. I wait till after midnight to epi for so that I can sleep through the night and know that I'm going to wake up the next day, because the last 3 days I have woken up with my face completely swollen. All right, back to the article. There are also several types of POTS. Okay, an overactive sympathetic nervous system and an underactive vagus nerve have been theorized to contribute to POTS. It's also plausible that some patients suffer from neuropathic POTS, where the issue may be more tied to the circulatory system. A drop in blood pressure due to blood pooling in the lower extremities may trigger a compensation in heart rate. That doesn't happen to me. It happens to my daughter. Her tilt table test was, here we go. Sorry, YouTube. Her tilt table test was 100% solid. Yes, you have POTS. And that's why she was recommended a wheelchair, because not that she can't handle the walking when we go places, and not that she doesn't want to walk, but like her heart rate is all over the place all the time. It can change just from lying down to sitting up, standing up, vice, and all of that in between. And she actually asked me for a Fitbit so she could keep track of her heart rate, and she hates things on her wrists with sensory issues. So that tells you how seriously she's taking it, right? So please make sure you hit the like button. Please comment, leave me any questions or comments, and share your story. All right. So a 2015 study found that 66% of patients with POTS also had EDS and validated signs of MCAS. The authors concluded that collagen disorders, Behçet's attacks your blood vessels, and my collagen turns to absolute jello when my MCAS is flared. So I don't know exactly what that means or what the connection is yet, but I'm working on it. And mast cell activation appeared to co-segregate together. However, the study had a small, only 15 patient, female only sample size. A separate 2015 study evaluated a larger portion of MCAS patients, 117 to be exact, 74% of which were female. Of these patients, 20% had lab evidence of mast cell activation disorders, specifically elevated urinary prostaglandins and elevated urinary histamine levels. My histamine levels, I got that tested once. I don't know the exact number, but I know like the wheel, when they do the prick test, right? In order for it to be a positive test, the wheel, the allergic spot that shows up has to be like a +2 or more for it to be considered a positive marker, right? Mine was like a +90 or something. And the first thing the allergist said when he came back into the room was like, uh, holy cow, you have a lot of histamines. Like, it's insane. And I was like, do we know why? And he was like, no, you have to move. Because I'm allergic to mesquite. Okay, anyway. So, however, here we go. Of the patients in the 117 patient study, 20% had laboratory evidence specifically, or read that part. A 2016 study evaluated 41 patients with POTS and found that 62% had coexisting joint hypermobility syndrome, HS, JHS. 35% of patients in the POTS JHS group had a positive family history for JHS, and 27% of these patients had laboratory evidence of mast cell activation disorders. Note, it is extremely difficult to get mast cell activation disorder anything verified with testing because it's often unreliable. It's a mixed bag on whether or not you're going to get positive, results that match your experience. Because doctors are often looking for elevated tryptase. They're looking for, which only happens in 30% of patients with mast cell activation syndrome. And from what I was told, about 18%, I think, of mastocytosis patients don't show elevated tryptase during a flare, because I've had mastocytosis patients in my comment section say, yeah, us too. It doesn't happen to all of us. I've had 2 of those people in my comment section, and I think that's pretty significant considering I'm a tiny little social media fish in a giant internet pond, and for 2 out of that 18% to have found my videos, pretty sure that rare in this case may actually just mean underdiagnosed and misunderstood. So while the literature indicates that the 3 conditions go hand in hand, there are certainly discrepancies in study results as well as methods used in the studies to determine the diagnosis of EDS versus joint hypermobility syndrome and MCAS. Here are some more links to the information on the condition, and I will put these in the description box on YouTube for the Ehlers-Danlos Society website and Dysautonomia International website about POTS. There is research that shows connection between mast cells and different types of cancer, including thyroid tumors, pancreatic cancer, multiple myeloma, and Hodgkin's lymphoma. Many theoretical associations have been shared and are quite plausible. However, the first bit of research specific to the MCAS community was published in 2017 by Dr. Molderings and colleagues in Germany. The researchers retrospectively evaluated the prevalence of solid tumor forms of cancer reported in the past medical history of 828 European, German, and American MCAS patients. 68 patients, 8.2% of the patients, reported the development of a solid tumor prior to their diagnosis with MCAS. I don't know if this counts, but I have a microadenoma, like a it's last time it was checked, it was smaller than the head of a pin. But I have a tumor on my pituitary gland called a microadenoma, and it kicks out too much prolactin. It's the hormone that your body releases when you're breastfeeding. Basically, my body still thinks it's pregnant. My daughter's 17. And it's pointless. My doctor told me you could get it removed, but it tends to grow back. The danger with it is that it could also make you go blind if it presses on the optic nerves. So, fun. I'm being laugh or cry, people. Laugh or cry. All right. As a whole, MCAS patients presented with a higher prevalence of lung, thyroid, bladder, breast, and reproductive organ, cervical, ovarian, testicular, uterine cancers, and melanoma than the general population. The German group had a higher rate of melanoma, testicular cancer, and breast cancer than the American MCAS patients. The U.S. MCAS study population had a higher prevalence of ovarian and thyroid cancer when compared to the German MCAS population. Both MCAS groups had higher than average rates of lung cancer and cancer of the urinary bladder when compared to the general population. IBS. A 2011 study found that 19 out of 20 patients, that's a lot, diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome had signs and symptoms of pathological mast cell activation, according to a 2017 publication by researchers Wirtz and Molderings. Quote, a majority of MCAD, mast cell activation disorder or disease patients, complain about abdominal pain and or cramping, usually accompanied by bloating, gassiness of the bowel, diarrhea, constipation, thereby fulfilling the diagnostic criteria for IBS. A bulk of results suggest roles of mast cells infiltration and activation in IBS-related pain pathology. I read this stuff for fun when nobody's watching, so I figured I might as well. Not fun, but this is why I went into journalism, because I can ask why and try and talk to experts and be a giant toddler and ask why again and again and again and why this and why that, and not get looked at like I'm crazy because I'm asking questions because I'm writing for whatever. If you want to take a look at my writing bio, it's in my link tree at the very bottom. I should probably move that up. All right, fibromyalgia syndrome. A study in 2016 concluded that the prevalence of elevated inflammatory mast cell mediators noted in 84 patients with fibro syndrome, FMS, could potentially be connected to the etiology of the condition. A 2017 review article noted that pain is one of the most severe symptoms in patients with MCAD and concluded that a subset of patients with fibromyalgia may be the clinical manifestation of mast cell activation disorders. Other conditions that can be connected to or have been connected to the patient population with MCAS: complex regional pain syndrome, CRPS, myalgic encephalomyelitis, chronic fatigue syndrome, ME/CFS. We both have chronic fatigue syndrome as well. Neuropsychological conditions, anxiety, depression, and autism spectrum disorders. I know that there are multiple practitioners out there, licensed medical doctors and medical practitioners, who will automatically screen EDS, MCAS, and or POTS patients for neurodivergence, autism, ADHD. because there's that much of a connection. Both my daughter are ADHD and autistic, so ADHD. If and yeah, um, it's a lot to take in at the same time. Mast cells themselves have been implicated to play a role in dozens, if not hundreds, of conditions. For example, a 2004 study noted significantly higher rates of mast cell mediators in the limbs of patients with type 1 complex regional pain syndrome, CRPS, compared to the unaffected limbs. They also found a significant correlation between pain and tryptase levels in CRPS patients. All right, that one I'm going to note just so you know. Again, according to everything that I've read and researched, only about 30% of patients with mast cell activation syndrome will show elevated tryptase in a blood test, even during or directly after a mast cell activation flare. I had one lovely doctor suggest that I suggest but not suggest. She did it very smoothly. Um, you know, if I were to, decide to try and get that test right after I had a flare, the best thing to do would be to eat something I know that's going to trigger a reaction and hang out in the hospital parking lot next to the ER so I can go right in after I start reacting. Um, I carry EpiPens at all times because I have mast cell activation syndrome, latex allergy, coconut allergy, banana allergy, avocado allergy, and anaphylaxis to poinsettia, and apparently stevia because that's also a latex allergy cross. We'll do that in a different video. And I was like, yeah, we're not going back. All right. So the research presents a conundrum that asking, does this mean that patients with CRPS may have underlying MCAS, or rather is it that the inflammatory process occurring recruits extra mast cells to the area? Thus, at best, we have a lot of literature that indicates preliminary associations based on the measurement of mast cells and mediators in responses to medications and natural supplements that target mast cells. I'm going to stop here and I'm going to explain something that I have been told, that I have also found in various research studies, medical journals, etc., JAMA, NIH, all that stuff. People with mast cell activation syndrome, we do not have an overproliferation of mast cells. We don't have too many mast cells. I can't tell you how many skin biopsies I've had when they were looking for cutaneous mastocytosis. I don't have cutaneous mastocytosis. I don't have elevated mast cells in my skin. I don't have them in my bloodstream for testing because I don't have too many mast cells. The mast cells that I have are overactive. Think of a faulty smoke alarm. It goes off if you just turn the stove on, if the wind blows the wrong way, or just because my mast cells respond to anything and everything, and the trigger can change from day to day, from month to month. Barometric pressure changes, hormonal changes, stressful days. Apparently, I react every single morning. I'll wake up normal looking, and then I'll take my dogs outside and I will get back inside and oh my God, my face is completely swollen. And I'm like, that's just great. So apparently I'm allergic to just existing and moving. Yeah, good times. So yeah, I've got my MCAS stabilizers, my mast cell medications, my regular medications, my rescue medications, and I've got my EpiPens, and they're always on me. All right. So when it comes to this here, does this mean that patients with CRPS may have underlying MCAS, or rather that the inflammatory process occurring recruits extra mast cells to the area? I don't know. I mean, this is an older article, but I'm thinking that the mast cells in the area are just that's affected for CRPS are just overly sensitive and overreacting and causing a whole lot of things to happen that wouldn't be happening in a person with mast cells that are not overactive or overly sensitive. Thus, at best, we have literature that indicates preliminary associations based on the measurement of mast cells, mediators, and responses, and natural supplements that target mast cells. Okay, so natural supplements could include things like vitamin C. Be careful with that one. Be careful with anything I say. Research on your own and talk to your doctor. Okay, do not just do something because any influencer said so, or any MCAS advocate or any other condition advocate says so. Research, and if you want to help me to help you research, I'm more than happy to help you do that live. Because if I hadn't researched, I don't know if I would still be here before I got diagnosed, and that's not an understatement. Quercetin's another natural supplement that can help with mast cells. Quercetin never did anything for me. I could take it or leave it, and it did nothing. Those are two that you can order online without a prescription. So please talk to your doctor, do your research, and whatever you do, if you do, and your doctor's okay with this, if you do add a supplement or a medication, make sure that you talk to your doctor about titrating up from like a baby dose and work your way up over like a number of weeks to full dose, because even medications that our bodies can tolerate, if we start at the regular dose, like people who don't have mast cell activation syndrome, we react because it's new and different, and our body's like, no, that's bad. And then we have a reaction, and doctor's like, oh, you're allergic, and you're like, oh, I'm allergic, and then you don't do it when it actually could help you if you start at like baby dose. And by that I mean, like, instead of like for chromal and sodium, instead of the entire like vial, start at a quarter, then work your way to a half, then work your way to like 3/4, 3/4, then the full, like and if you have a spike in symptoms, you go back a step. That's what I was told by one of my doctors, and then was verified at the Mayo Clinic. All right. Mast cells have been theorized to be associated with myalgic encephalomyelitis or chronic fatigue syndrome, ME/CFS, by Dr. Theorides and colleagues. I've seen Dr. Theorides on YouTube, and I plan to do some collab videos with responding to his videos. Lutein, is that another Journeys? Is that another MCAS stabilizer? I don't think I have. What does it do? And do you know what it's made of? Because I have a crazy number of allergies. I'm like allergic to the poison and the cure, so it's like I'm everybody's worst nightmare for a patient, because of the conditions that I have and the allergies that I have on top of that. I'm basically allergic to, like, right now the count is 125 individual things, environmental and medical and food. It's everywhere. All right. Mast cells. All right. Okay. Specifically, mast cells in the diencephalon area of the brain could be responsible for some of the physiological pathways responsible for ME/CFS symptoms. Again, I might have mentioned this already, but fibromyalgia and EDS. I know this is a jump from mast cell, but not that far, because it's usually quite often it's a triad, or son of a bitch. Hi. Keeping it real. Okay. All right. 1 second. 1 second. There you go. All right. So, see my chin getting pink? Yeah. This is why I'm a vampire, because I try to make sure I medicate as late as possible, because I always flare at night. And that's when I will epi, if I can wait that long. So for every one reaction that I epi for, I waited through 2 or 3 other reactions. Do I recommend that? No. But obviously my mast cells, for me, this is normal. I'm totally fine. This is normal for me, right? All right. So Dr. Theorides is also leading the way with research regarding autism spectrum disorders and their potential connection to MCAS. Thank you, Dr. Theorides. According to Dr. Theorides, perinatal mast cell activation by infectious, stress-related environmental or allergic triggers can lead to release of pro-inflammatory and neurotoxic molecules, thus contributing to brain inflammation and ASD, autism spectrum disorder pathogenesis, at least in a subgroup of ASD patients. My mast cell was triggered during my pregnancy. And when my daughter was 2, we tried again. Went to a fertility specialist because my body was like, yeah, no. I was terrified of the idea of getting pregnant again because of the nightmare pregnancy previous. But I got a shot to stimulate my ovaries. I did not think to ask at the time what was in the shot. I read everything now. And I can tell you that the moment the needle was injected with the medication or whatever that stimulates ovulation, I knew it was a mistake because I had a welt that started immediately. My hair started falling out the next day, and potential trigger warning. I had an unconfirmed loss. I was late 2 weeks, and I was supposed to go to the doctor for my follow-up test 2 days after this happened. And because I would rather, at the time, I'm not recommending this, I'm just telling you how I reacted because it's honest. But I knew what was happening wasn't just a regular cycle. And because I was in, let's just say, the majority of these of spontaneous loss like that usually happens before you even realize that you are pregnant. And I'm pretty sure my mast cells were like, yeah, no, we could barely handle it the first time. So there you go. That makes sense. Dr. Theorides is also leading the way. Where I read that part. Okay, in 2016, study evaluated comorbid conditions in patients diagnosed with MCAS based on their medical history and records. A number of conditions included GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, asthma, and how do you say that? Interstitial cystitis, to name a few. Also appear to be common in the MCAS patient population. Certain clinical findings, such as anemia, elevated liver enzymes, I've got that. Blood pressure abnormalities, I've got that. And fainting or near fainting episodes are frequently reported. I don't have that, but I do have potentially, we don't know the source yet for seizures. Not the kind that I'm going to choke on my tongue, the kind where I think they're called partial and semi-partial. And then I lose consciousness for 2 to 3 hours. And I think I just fell asleep. And my daughter's like, no, you did not just fall asleep. I was with you the whole time. You did not just fall asleep. You just out. And guess what helps with that? The same medication that stabilizes my mast cells. So certain clinical findings, such as anemia, elevated, right, okay, so, and the latest, and lastly, expert opinions in functional medicine or naturopathic world note clinical trends and the overlap of MCAS with conditions such as mold illness, toxicity, Lyme disease, vector-borne illness, Epstein-Barr virus, thyroid disease, multiple chemical sensitivity. I actually hate saying this part, so anybody who wants to jump on this train, no. Parasitic infection, celiac disease, and small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and much more. I have mast cell activation syndrome. It's not parasites. Okay, just putting that out there. And yes, I used to live in a mold box of an apartment, and I moved out after 4 years. Those 4 years happened to be the lockdown period because of the pandemic. And all of a sudden, I could eat more foods than I could handle when I was living in the mold box. So the mold box of an apartment exacerbated my MCAS symptoms, but leaving the mold box did not make them go away entirely. Okay. There's a difference between well managed and cured. If anybody tells you they can cure, guarantees you, or tells you that their program or their system or their dietary plan or their supplements can cure or help you live a symptom-free life. To quote Wesley as a drug pirate Roberts from The Princess Bride, the world is full of pain, princess. Everyone else is just trying to sell you something. Yeah. The chicken or the egg? In patients with higher medical complexity who tend to have more than one diagnosis, how you doing? There is a great debate about whether the MCAS predated the other condition or whether the other condition triggered the MCAS. Okay, here is my take on this part. My take on this part, and I'll go back to the article in a second, but my take on this part is it depends on the person. I've noted this in my daughter and in myself. Yeah, I was freezing a second ago. And I think it started right before my chin started getting beet red. So I had the blanket wrapped around my shoulders because I was freezing cold. And that usually happens when my hormones are doing funky things and my hormones trip my MCAS. So yeah, it's a great combination. Thank you. I appreciate you. You know what? Am I following you? Follow them back. There we go. All right. So let's see. What did I wanted to talk? What did I want to talk about? Sorry, my brain just ADHD'd. Give me a second. Chicken or the egg? All right, right. So chicken or the egg, does MCAS come first or do the other conditions come first, triggering the MCAS? First of all, I use the term umbrella condition. Okay, it's not necessarily a medical condition terminology. It's just I think that each of us are unique in which condition kind of leads the show, so to speak. And by that, I mean when my mast cell activation syndrome is out of control because my doctors are either effing with my mast cell stabilizers and my rescue meds, my known rescue meds, because I am allergic to so many medications. It's easier for me to tell you which ones I can take than it is for me to tell you which ones I cannot. I'm allergic to everything from corticosteroids to medical preservatives to medical lubricants. My airway slammed shut during an upper endoscopy. The second they inserted the tube. So I know for a fact that the medical lubricant on that scope contained either and ethylenediamide chloride and or coconut derivatives. I'm allergic to asthma inhalers in the propellant. I'm allergic to nasal sprays because of the propellant. I'm allergic to Entire classes of medications, everything. I'm allergic to everything. And I have everything. So like I can only take like 5 meds. Super fun. And for me, when my mast cell flares, my Behçet's flares, Behçet's disease, that's an autoimmune disease that causes your body to attack its own blood vessels and can cause issues like blood clots, stroke, seizures, aneurysms, stroke, and the welts and the dark spots on my arms that I've had people like go like, what recreational activities are you partaking in? And I'm like, yeah, trying to exist. Yeah. But yeah, MCAS goes off the hook. Everything clears for me. My fibro, my hypermobility syndrome, my chronic fatigue, my everything. For my daughter, her MCAS only flares during her cycle. We react to each other's hormones, by the way. That's possible. You can react to somebody else's hormones and even their natural body odor that, just them existing in your space, or even the foods or the spices that they eat before they showed up at your house to say hi. So when her POTS and her EDS are acting up, she is a mess. Her umbrella is POTS and EDS. My umbrella is MCAS. When any of those conditions are triggered in either one of us because of, oh, Jesus. Hi. Because of just, that's what happens. Everything else goes wonky. It's just the way it is. So, yeah, good times. And I don't necessarily think, and again, this is an older article, but I think that one's a hard one to nail because I think it's different for all of us. Just like MCAS presents differently for a lot of us. We don't have the same triggers. We don't have the same, there is not one standard treatment or protocol or diet. Yes, many of us try low histamine. Many of us try the same mast cell stabilizing medications. Many of us try a variety of mast cell rescue medications. But for a lot of us, it's not the same thing that works for everybody. Like if you have the flu, you get this medicine. If you have tonsillitis, if you have strep, you get this antibiotic. If you break your leg, you get a cast. If you have MCAS, it's what works for you, period. And that's exactly, and that's part of the problem is the trial and error on what works for you and keeps you safe. Some triggers like mold and environmental toxins have ample support in the literature in terms of their potential to activate mast cells, but that still begs the question, is this patient sick because their body was already burdened, perhaps since birth or epigenetically from MCAS, and these triggers were merely the tipping point? That's what I think. That's my personal opinion. I think we are it's like celiac disease. That's my example. My husband has celiac disease. My daughter has celiac disease. According to the doctor that diagnosed him when he was 28, because he'd been on he'd been on basically Pepsid and for GERD, like GERD for like 10 years. They diagnosed him with that, with acid reflux at 18, without any testing. Then all of a sudden, and he used to be able to put away like a full large pizza, no problem, right? From like any pizza place. And then, hormones hit, puberty hit. Usually celiac patients can like look back at like, and tell me if it sounds familiar, celiac patients can usually look back at like some life-changing event going to college, a traumatic accident, giving birth, some type of infection that, some kind of illness that put them in the hospital, or some kind of infection that kept them in bed for a little while. There's usually like a triggering event, but only in the people who are predisposed to have it, right? And I think I personally think it's the same thing with MCAS. I already had MCAS before I moved into the mold box of an apartment. The mold box of an apartment just made it worse. And to go back to the root cause bunk, that I hate that like root cause term, because it does make people think that, well, if I treat the root cause, I can fix this. You can manage it. Because my root cause is pregnancy, and if fixing the root cause and treating the root cause is getting rid of or addressing the root cause, I gave birth 17 years ago. I should only have had MCAS according to that theory while I was pregnant, and it should have been, taken care of after I gave birth. That didn't happen. I still have it. I can literally feel this part getting really, really warm now. Some triggers. Yep, my lips are dry. Salivary glands are like not salivary glanding. They are starting to shut down. Low level anaphylaxis. Chronic. Do I look phased? No, because this is my normal. Is it normal that this is my normal? Hell no. Should I be sitting here going, hey, let's do some research? That's how I figure things out. But I also know that I'm not supposed to go to the ER unless I have airway involvement or the second EpiPen doesn't work, because ERs are not set. They don't know how to handle MCAS. They don't. You go into the ER if you like your airways closing, or you're already in anaphylactic shock, right? You just go in and say, hey, I have 2 body systems affected, and the doctor's going to be like, well, this happened to me. Why are you here if you can breathe, right? So a lot of MCAS patients tend to try to avoid the hospital because we just get looked at like we're crazy. Even though I've had all of this confirmed by the Mayo Clinic. All right, so some triggers like while the preliminary literature indicates that MCAS may have a genetic component, may have. I can tell you my genetic component. She's upstairs gaming with a friend in Singapore right now. She's 17 now and a fully functioning human being. I think this is where we have a problem. We need the patients and the doctors in one room talking to each other, because right now we have doctors doing and researchers doing studies on patients and patients volunteering for the studies, but we don't have an actual conversation bridging the two communities so that they can hear from us. That's what I need your help with. That's why I need you on my YouTube channel. That's why I need you subscribing, liking, and commenting and sharing. And that's why I need you to, share every single MCAS, not just me. If you see something about MCAS by a medical professional that you trust, with valid sources, if you see something from an MCAS advocate patient, and it's an experience that you've had, share that stuff, like that stuff, comment on that stuff. Because I have a feeling that we all have some feelings about this kind of stuff because we're living it. And, when you're waiting for the 5 months to 2 years between specialist appointments, you kind of have to keep yourself alive in the process. So anyway, while the preliminary literature indicates that MCAS may have a genetic component, the consensus is far from clear and universally accepted on this topic. It can be far from clear. My personal consensus is I gave birth to my genetic component. All right. I believe the genetic component. There are several theories out there that provide plausible explanations for a number of the above listed overlapping conditions. One theory is the RCCX theory by Dr. Sharon McLaughry. Pardon, I am getting bubbly. because MCAS, uh, which I'll be discussing in the next blog post. So stay tuned. Sign up for the email to stay in the loop. Okay, so she's got, or the author here has, awesome, 13 sources cited at the bottom for references. So I will make sure I add that to the YouTube live, which will turn into a video. So I'll add it to the description box. That's why I like doing both at the same time, so I can let you all know that I'm over there on YouTube, where I plan to do the majority of the rest of my stuff. Thanks for raising awareness, and please keep it up. Histamine's bucket dump has me up 2 to 4 a.m. Hugs. Vix, let me tell you, thank you. And I'm on my cycle right now, so I'm really hoping that this is why. But I've woken up the last 2 days with my lips so swollen, my lips and my cheeks so swollen right here that I look like a freaking hound dog. And that line that I get down the center of my forehead, between my eyebrows when I'm like getting puffy and about to swell. And I'm like, oh, cool. All right. So like, I guess I'll epi and go back to sleep. I got 4 hours of sleep last night and woke up really, really early. And I immediately do a selfie check because then I can see, right? Because I can feel things happening. And I think my body woke me up to tell me, I think my brain was like, yeah, you need to medicate. So my husband happened to walk into the room because he's been up for hours and he was like, yeah, here's your epi, go back to sleep. So it's been crazy. I understand, and I'm pretty sure that's why I'm a vampire. I'm trying to stay awake long enough, or my body's been trained by my brain to stay awake long enough so that I can catch the lost reaction. Because I always dump between 2 and 4 a.m. Between 2 and 4 a.m. histamine dump for anybody who might have taken that the wrong way. And if I'm not awake to take the medication to stabilize myself, then I wake up with a face that is like 3 times the size it should be. I've lost 50 pounds in the last 6 months. And my face sometimes gets more swollen now than it was 50 pounds ago. That's not normal. All right, so now back to this article. Let's see, cancer that's linked to MCAS. Research has made connections between mast cells and different types of cancer, including thyroid tumors, pancreatic cancer, multiple myeloma, and Hodgkin's lymphoma. And there are many theoretical associations, quite plausible. However, the first bit of research specific to MCAS patients community was published in 2017 by Dr. Moldering. One second. Here we go. Okay, by Dr. Molderings and colleagues in Germany. The researchers retrospectively evaluated the prevalence of solid tumor forms of cancer reported in the past medical history of 828 European, German, and American MCAS patients. 68%, 8.2, 68 patients, 8.2% of the patients reported the development of a solid tumor prior to the diagnosis of MCAS. Again, I have a microadenoma, tiny, teeny, tiny little brain tumor on my pituitary gland. Makes my body still think it's pregnant. And I can't take the medication for it because I'm allergic to it. But having the tumor removed is essentially pointless because they tend to grow back. And so now I just deal with it. I don't have, aside from making it hard to lose weight, I haven't noticed anything else with it. But it's possibly one of the reasons why I wasn't able to have a second child, and very possibly why it took so long to have the one that I got. Let's see. As a whole, MCAS patients presented with a higher prevalence of lung, thyroid, bladder, breast, and reproductive organ, cervical, ovarian, testicular, uterine cancers, and melanoma than the general population. Right? And the German group presented with a higher rate of other types of cancer, including testicular and breast cancer, than the American MCAS patients. The U.S. MCAS study population had a higher prevalence of ovarian and thyroid cancers when compared to the German MCAS population. Both populations had higher than average rates of lung cancer and cancer of the urinary bladder when compared to the general pop. So it also affects IBS. A study in 2011 found that 19 out of 20 patients have IBS and signs of pathological mast cell activation disease. And a quote, majority of MCAD patients complain about abdominal pain and or cramping, usually accompanied by bloating, gassiness of the bowel, diarrhea, constipation. They're fulfilling the diagnostic criteria for IBS. Guess what? All of those are also MCAS um, symptoms. A bulk of results suggest rules of mast cell infiltration and activation in IBS-related pathology. That makes sense too. Fibro. 84 patients with fibro. This was a 2016 study. Noted in 84 patients with fibro that they could potentially be connected to the etiology of the condition. A 2017 review article noted that pain is one of the most severe symptoms in patients with mast cell activation disease, and concluded that a subset of patients with FMS fibromyalgia may be the clinical manifestation of MCAD. I mean, for some people that might be true. It didn't even track that I was having chronic pain. Even though once a month before I got my, TikTok pregnancy pillow that everyone's talking about right now for, helping with keeping you stable at night with EDS so you don't like dislocate and like sublux a joint and everything. Since I've had that, I used to be stuck in bed, literally stuck in bed for 2 hours after I woke up because it took that long. I had so much pressure on the spine, at the base of my spine, that it literally felt like somebody had me, like a full-grown man was like putting all of his weight into like the heel of his boot to keep me on the ground. That's what it felt like. And like I was like it was locked. I couldn't freaking move. And that hasn't happened since I got that pregnancy pillow. So like, yay. But so that's good. But I can't necessarily say that the fibro. Let's see. My fibro flourished with my mast cell, so maybe that does make sense. Yes. All right. But again, it could be different for somebody else, because that's why doctors don't know. And can somebody please explain to me why allergists are like afraid of mast cell activation patients? Nobody in Georgia, not a single allergist I called, would take me as a patient the second they found out I had MCAS. And the doctor that I saw on Monday here in the Minnesota, Wisconsin area was like, yeah, we don't, I don't have anybody to recommend. We don't know a lot about mast cell. And I was like, I do. That's why I'm still here. I knew I had mast cell 6 years before I got diagnosed. I went low histamine. I thought I had histamine tolerance first. Figured out it wasn't just that, because histamine intolerance patients, if it's just histamine intolerance, not minimizing, just differentiating, it usually takes at least half an hour up to a few days for everything to pile up enough for your histamine overload to overflow on your histamine bucket. 2 bites in of a burger, beef, 1 bite into a piece of salmon, 2 sips into a cup of tea or coffee, and I'm in anaphylaxis. And just sitting here, it's after midnight, and yeah. But I'm not gonna epi yet because I need to wait so that I can make sure it's in my system long enough that I can sleep. Again, I'm not recommending that you do what I do. I'm just telling you that this is how I deal, because this is my normal, and I can't spend $250 a day every single time I react. and I don't plan on moving into the hospital because I like being home with my family. Plus, it's more dangerous in the hospital because there are way too many medications that could be given to me when I'm asleep or unconscious that I won't be able to say, hey, no, 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 no. 8 out of 10 are things that I'm either allergic to or trigger mast cell reactions for me. I have a pharmacist who is currently trying to put together a list of corticosteroids to help my Behçet's disease, which I think I'll only have to take when I'm flaring because it's corticosteroids. And she's like, yeah, we put all of our medications in. Oh, how do I sleep with epi? I have severe ADHD. If ADHD was an Olympic sport, I'd probably win gold for the US every single time. And I can go to sleep literally, like I could, if I wanted to, go to sleep like 5 minutes after I take it, administer the epi, even if I have to administer 2. Because usually, I was told I don't have to go to the hospital unless the second epi doesn't work or I have airway involvement. And it has a paradoxical effect on me, kind of like a stimulant medication or coffee does for most people with ADHD. All it does for me is bring me back to baseline. I was talking with a friend today who is a transplant patient who also has severe allergies. I'm not sure which ones they are, but I know they're severe enough that his epi dose is like twice mine. And he was like, how the hell are you doing this every day? And I'm like, well, I do it when I have to. And unfortunately, the have to sometimes happens more often than I want it to. Always happens when doctors are like, yeah, you don't really need all those medications. You're fine. And I'm like, time to find a new doctor. A minute. Okay. And he was like, I can't sleep after I take my epi. I could run a mile without even breaking a sweat. I'm like, I can go right to sleep. You suffer from indoor allergies. I'm not familiar with MCAS. What is that? Hey, Christine. So mast cell activation syndrome, in short, is random allergic reactions that could lead all the way up to sniffly nose, all the way up to anaphylaxis, 2 or more body systems affected at once. Does not have to necessarily involve airway or a drop in blood pressure. That's actually usually, if you're at drop in blood pressure and your throat's closing, that's basically anaphylactic shock. And you need to already be like, the EMTs already need to be there. You already need to be in the back of the ambulance, so already in the ER. I carry, even if I didn't have all the allergies that I have, I would still carry like 4 pens. I will not let anyone use my port to use epi. That was pure hell. Ow. Oh yeah, that sounds bad. Yeah, Vix. I understand because just administering the epi on my own, as often as I need to epi, there are days where I'm sleeping on my back, and I'm not a normal back sleeper. I'm usually sleep on my side, and my thighs just hurt too much for that. Anyway, let's see. So mast cells have been implicated to play a role in dozens, if not hundreds, of conditions. For example, a 2004 study found significantly higher levels of mast cells in people who have CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome, and there was a huge correlation between pain and tryptase levels in those patients. So those patients, actually, that tells me that if you have CRPS and you have mast cell, or maybe it's just the patients who have CRPS that show elevated tryptase, because only about 30% of patients with MCAS show elevated tryptase. The other 70% are being missed completely. If the doctors don't know about consensus 2. I can do a different video on that. Mast cells have been associated with fibromyalgia or myoencephalitis, and also with autism spectrum disorder. So yeah, there's that. Let's see. Let's look for another one here real quick. Did I read that one? I probably. MCAS and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. This is from Mayo Clinic. And just to, I will put this one in the description box after the videos switch from live status, and I can update the description box. But this post is describing a review of mast cell disorders in EDS syndrome about the role of mast cells in Ehlers-Danlos, published in 2017 in the American Journal of Medical Genetics, Seminars in Medical Genetics. Here's a tip for everybody. As a journalist, I haven't been published in a few years because I haven't been working in a few years because chronic illness. But I want you to know that if the sources that you're following and the doctors that you're working with can't provide you with links to verifiable, reputable sources, medical journals, peer-reviewed papers, and it's just based on their personal experience, tread carefully and be careful. Like I spent stupid money I went down that entire pipeline. I went down I'm imagining things. This can't be real. The doctors are right. It's all in my head. Maybe it's parasites. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's that. I fully believe that there's an entire population of people with a condition that who believe they have a condition that I'm not going to mention because I'll save that one for members only in Patreon for a video there, because I don't need that kind of hot topic blowing up my stuff in the wrong association. But let's just say that I have seen things in Facebook groups that people shouldn't be seeing. And I thought, wow, all of this explains me. Yeah, guess what? We need to know why. That's how humans work. Okay? We need to know why. So if we can't find the why, if the doctors don't have the why, and if the doctors are like, yeah, we're not going to see you because you have MCAS, how the hell are we supposed to find out the why unless we start researching ourselves? And then nothing else explains what we have. So it must be this, which in and of itself, I believe, is a form of medical PTSD and the body and the brain doing what the body and the brain need to do in order to make sense of our world, which is come up with an answer. Because if we don't have an answer, why do you think little kids are asking why all the time? Same thing. We need to know why, because we can't work on fixing what's wrong with or without a doctor if we don't know what's wrong, right? So let's go over to the mast cells and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome article. Open a new tab. Where is that article? There we go. This is from PubMed. Oh, cool. It's short. Okay, mast cell disorders and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Well known for their role in allergic disorders. This is from... When was this published? Looking. I don't see a date. 2017. All right. Okay, so This was written. My MCAS hero is listed as one of the authors in this abstract, and that's Dr. Lawrence Afrin. If you suspect mast cell activation syndrome, I highly recommend that you go on your own YouTube rabbit hole or invite me to go with you, or send me a message, leave a comment, sub to my channel and leave a comment, and I will help you learn how to Google the right terms and what research doctors are going to look at, because they don't care if it came from me or somebody with, like, a million followers who doesn't have a medical degree. It's not going to matter. And I also think that although I love Dr. Afford's consensus too, and Dr. Afford for sharing everything he shares, the consensus too does lead to, I think, what is kind of an oxymoron in that people are being overdiagnosed in the actual mast cell community when it might just be histamine intolerance. Differentiating, not minimizing. Okay, because histamine intolerance patients don't generally need epi, don't generally have chronic anaphylaxis, and usually take at least 30 minutes before they start to react after they eat. I'm 100% aware of the fact that I'm going to react to whatever's going to set me off. There are certain things I know I can never have, certain things I know I can't have at certain times of the month, and certain things that are sometimes a crapshoot. The last time I was not on my MCAS stabilizing medications, because my doctors were like, yeah, you have to wait for the mental health nurse practitioner to see you for med management, because I happen to be on a controlled medication for my mast cell stabilization because I'm allergic to everything else. I'm not kidding. And it's the only one that works fast enough that I don't react to. That isn't an epi. Again, I'll get into more detail on that stuff with Patreon supporters if you're interested. Link is in the description box, and I will make sure I add it to the YouTube. Link is in my bio for TikTok, and I will make sure I add it to the description box here for anybody who is still hanging out. Because if you're still here, you're as messed up as I am, and I know you did not want to invite to the same party. I am very sorry. We are serving water, lukewarm, because hot or cold could trigger a reaction in you. Sorry, but we're not serving any snacks because we have no idea what you might react to. So I hope we brought you on. Okay. Well known for the role in allergic disorders, mast cells play a role in homeostatic mechanisms and surveillance, recognizing and responding to different pathogens and tissue injury with an array of chemical mediators. After being recruited to connective tissues, resident MCs progenitors undergo further differentiation under the influence of signals from surrounding microenvironment. It is a differential tissue, homing and local maturation factors which result in a diverse population of resident MC phenotypes. Basically, your mast cells are going to do what they're going to do in the area in which they're going to do it the most. And in some people, that's in their skin, cutaneous. In some people, that's in like their digestive system. That's why cromolyn sodium helps them so much. In other people, mine is like sinuses and like face, right? And just general allergic angioedema and chronic anaphylaxis. Again, anaphylaxis, medically defined as 2 or more body systems affected at once. Any 2 body systems, rash, skin, and salivary gland shutdown. Welts, skin, and digestive issues, either end. Brain fog, mental confusion, and I don't know, getting sick. That's another two body systems. That's what it takes. Why do I feel like politeness will hurt me? Am I alone? But what? Why do it? You mean like with doctors? Pix is asking on TikTok, why do I feel like politeness will hurt me? Am I alone? See, I try. I know a lot, and I'm not saying that to show off. I'm saying that I know a lot because I have a semi-photographic memory. I'm hyperlexic. I remember like pictures of full pages of what I've been reading, what I've read in the past. I can still remember the very first page of a Curious George book and the exact moment that my brain translated and made sense of the jumble of letters in spaces in different groups that made an actual sentence. And that words, I could read the words. Suddenly I could read the words and the whole world opened. Like that's what my brain does. So like I do a lot of research, self-research. I even did my own differentials to figure out that it was mast cell 6 years before I got diagnosed. I went through everything. I literally did every single freaking differential. Okay, well, it could be this. Okay, let's try this. Okay, let's try that. Okay, nope, it's not that. That's not working. Nope, if it was this, then that would have worked. Okay, all right, let's keep on going. Like I did every single freaking differential. And by the time I got to my mast cell diagnosing nurse practitioner who did a consensus 2 clinical diagnosis on me 2 years ago. Part of the reason that she was able to do that is because I'd already been through the tryptase testing. I'd already been through, all of the regular MCAS testing. And, well, I was doing very, very good on a low histamine diet, and I was doing very, very good on mast cell stabilizers. But there was a certain psychiatrist that didn't like that and said that I knew too many medical terms. So I must have something else. We'll get into that. That's a members only thing. Because yeah, I can't get into that one publicly right now. But I try to play the good girl, the good patient, the good little patient who just nods her head. Because that's what a lot of us have to do. And the only fix, and I swear to God, I've heard this from a million different medical illness, chronic illness advocates. If you can, take a man with you, your neighbor, your brother, your boyfriend, your sister's boyfriend, your husband, your father, the UPS guy. Like, seriously, if you've got a guy in your life who's like, okay, willing to go to the hospital with you and just stand there and just like, be manly. Just the presence of just their presence is enough for a doctor, for many doctors, to suddenly take you seriously. That's pathetic. So like I've learned that I have to be polite in order to and downplay what I know, because I've gotten in trouble by knowing too much, because certain doctors are like, you shouldn't know all these medical terms. I'm like, you're right, I shouldn't, but I have a lot of shit wrong with me, so I've had to learn these medical terms because I had to diagnose myself in order to get a medical diagnosis. And that's how I ended up at the Mayo Clinic and got everything confirmed via a blood test. Turns out my leukotriene levels are through the effing roof. Oh, and by the way, I took a look at my histamine test from like 2010, maybe. That was through the roof too. And I was diagnosed with idiopathic anaphylaxis like 7 years ago. I get that in the comments a lot. Is idiopathic anaphylaxis the same thing? I don't have mast cell activation syndrome. I have idiopathic anaphylaxis. Have you looked at the definition of idiopathic anaphylaxis and compared it to the definition of the diagnostic criteria for MCAS because it's kind of the same thing. I am not undiagnosing anyone with idiopathic anaphylaxis. I'm not saying that you have mast cell activation syndrome. I'm just saying there's a lot of similarities, and maybe it's time to look for an MCAS or a doctor if you're able to, because the doctor is telling you that you have idiopathic anaphylaxis and prescribing your H1s and your H2s and your mast cell stabilizers and your EpiPen and telling you that you don't have MCAS and also telling you to eat low histamine because MCAS doesn't actually exist because they don't believe in it, which I've had told to me by the head of a major hospital system where I live locally. It's time to look for a new doctor. But yeah, if you don't feel safe by yourself going to a doctor, definitely try and take someone with you. Anybody who can go with you. Seriously. Your doctor asked your husband questions because he is a medic, so I completely understood completely. All right, so let's look at this real quick because this is a super short one. So, an abundance of mast cells reside in connective tissue that borders with the external world, the skin, as well as gastrointestinal, respiratory, and urogenital tracts. Situated near nerve fibers, lymphatics, and blood vessels, as well as coupled with their ability to secrete potent mediators, MCs, mast cells, can modulate the function of local and distant structures, as in other immune cell populations, fibroblasts, and angiogenesis, and MC mast cells. Dysregulation has been implicated in immediate and delayed hypersensitivity syndromes, neuropathies, and connective tissue disorders. Hi, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. How you doing? How you doing? Idiopathic anaphylaxis and chronic anaphylaxis. How you doing? Hi, mast cells, period. This report reviews basic biology of mast cells and mast cell activation, as well as recent research efforts which indicate a role of MC, mast cell dysregulation, beyond atopic disorders and a cluster of EDS, non-IgE mediated hypersensitivity disorders. This is why so many people who have mast cell activation are convinced they're allergic to something and then go and get a blood test done and everything pops nothing pops positive and the doctors are like, you're fine. It must be your maybe it's just anxiety. You should try losing weight, exercising more. Meanwhile, you're sitting there like swelling in front of them and they're like, oh yeah, I'll get you some allergy medication too. Here's your EpiPen prescription. What? All right, so let's see. To finish this one up, it says, so the report reviews basic biology of mast cells and mast cell activation, as well as recent research efforts implicating the role of mast cell dysregulation beyond atopic disorders, beyond skin, and in a cluster of EDS syndromes, non-IgE mediated hypersensitivity disorders, and dysautonomia, connected dysautonomia. There's your connection right there. Yeah, some cases of hypermobile EDS may be rooted in mast cell activation syndrome. That's by Dr. Larry Afrin. Guess I'm going to be having so much fun with this one. I cannot wait to go down this rabbit hole. And I need to look at the association of POTS and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome with mast cell activation syndrome. That one's written by a few different doctors. But yeah, I'm leaving this page open because there is a whole lot to look at that I cannot do in tonight's video because I need to get ready for bed. Hey, Talmash, how you doing? All right, let's see. Was I actually sorry? Nobody's watching right now, so that's fine because I forgot to share that page. But let me go to the page I was on so that people can actually see. Let's see. Where is the share this page instead thing? I don't see it. God damn it. Hi. Okay. Let's see. Let's go back over here. Let's go here and let's go here. screen share, and there. This is the article that I was reading from just now. I read through that one, okay? I also read through, and I will add these to the description box tomorrow because it ain't happening tonight. I also read through, 1 minute. Why can't I find it? This one. I also read through this one. This was the last one that I read. And I will tell you right now, I will read anything with Dr. Lawrence Afrin's name on it. He is a world-renowned doctor that is, I think he's an immunologist, that is, he's my MCAS like guru, okay? And I'm not his patient. He has no idea who I am. I can't afford to see him in person, but I highly recommend that if you have the time, go down all the rabbit holes with his name on it. All the podcasts he's been on, all of the articles that he has been quoted in, all of the peer-reviewed journals and papers that he's published and been published in. And he's got a book called Never Bet Against Occam, which is a complicated title, but he's referring Occam's razor. The actual cell activation syndrome. If you're having random anaphylaxis at any given time to absolutely anything and everything, and the triggers change, and you have certain medications that happen to be mast cell stabilizers, and following a specific low histamine diet that's right for you, happen to calm things down, and we don't know. We don't know might actually be, hey, this might be MCAS, right? So it's definitely worth looking at 100%. How the hell did we get to 1.4K? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Now listen, I see I'm an error in the chat on TikTok. Please, every single one of you, go to my YouTube channel, Chronically Spicy. Please like, subscribe. Please comment on any of the videos. I've got mast cell activation, food allergy, latex allergy, coconut allergy, Behçet's. I'm going to add one on POTS and EDS specifically. And I've got various playlists that will make it easier for people to find the information they're looking for, because one of the issues that I'm facing on TikTok is that I keep on answering the same question over and over, because not everyone's going to go through your entire catalog of videos if you've got more than 5, right? And that's why I'm trying to slowly port all of my videos, or re-upload all of my videos to the playlist on my YouTube channel, so that people can go through and try to find them. And I'm trying to keyword everything with the right tags to try and make things easier for people to find for the resources that they need to take to their doctors. I'm not trying to say that I know more than your doctor, or that I know more than the person next to me. I just know how to research. And I know that if your doctor is willing to take their patient's research into consideration, it's going to be what's on PubMed, what's in JAMA, what's in the NIH, what has been peer reviewed, the names of the doctors that are associated with the publication or the study. And it's not going to be just hey, Pauline from TikTok and YouTube said. They don't care. They don't care. I don't need my name brought. I don't need. I think I've had 2 people tell me that they shared my videos with their doctors, and their doctors were like, "Oh my God, that's you. You have you probably this looks like what you might have," but that's not the norm. Okay. Those people had been with their doctors for a very long time and had very, open and, cool relationships with their doctors. And they were able to hey, I saw this on TikTok, and the doctor's immediate reaction wasn't, well, then obviously it's BS. No, the doctors listened, but that's because they knew they could bring that up. That is not the case with everybody. You need to be able to share valid and reputable information with your doctors if they're willing to listen, if they don't know. And the best doctors are the ones who can admit that they don't know and are willing to work with you to help you figure out what is going on. Understand another thing too. It might not be MCAS. It might not be EDS. It might not be POTS. It might be something else. Most of these conditions are diagnoses of exclusion. So that's one of the reasons why it takes so long for everything to get diagnosed. Or one to get diagnosed. That leads down the rabbit hole of, well, if you have this, you might have that, right? Part of that is because they have to rule other things out first. Like, do you have food allergies? Do you have food allergies and MCAS? Do you have environmental allergies and fibro? You know what I mean? Like, they have to, doctors have to doctor to it, right? They can't just take everything we say and like believe it without questioning it. Tests have to be run. Some I know are a pain in the ass to wait through. Some I know are inaccurate as hell. But if you can find a doctor who's willing to listen to you and work with you and help you, um, and learn with you on the process, you've struck gold. And do everything you can in your power to stay with that doctor until, like, you know, they can recommend a different doctor when it's time for them to retire. My goal is to help patients learn how to research for themselves and advocate for themselves, because I went through 15 years of thinking I was crazy and 15 years of questioning reality while I was fighting to stay alive without realizing it, because I did not have EpiPens. I did not have mast cell stabilizers. I was trying to just live. All while doctors were telling me, while I was swollen, covered from head to toe in welts, and losing my hair in patches, that it was all in my head. Okay, my imagination isn't that good, y'all. Okay, it just isn't. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing. That's why I do that. That's why I'm doing this. And if you can help me get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we can start making some noise. I would like to start and doing research on how to get a nonprofit started, specific to medical gaslighting, and helping patients advocate for themselves in those particular cases, because a lot of us have medical PTSD and don't know it. We've been gaslit to hell and back. And that's just not fair. It's not right. And we need to be able to support each other and work with each other and pool our knowledge and pool our social media reach to reach a bigger audience. Because right now, there needs to be a bridge between the doctors and the patients. Right now, we've got two separate communities. The doctor's trying to figure us out, and the patient's trying to be figured out. But like, we're not talking to each other, and that's not hurting. That's not helping any of us. So we definitely need to work together. If you would like to be a guest on my YouTube channel, send me an email at ChronicallySpicy@gmail. Leave a comment on any of my videos, and or send me a message if we're connected on TikTok, or leave me a message on one of my videos there too. But I would really, really, really like for you to YouTube it, because that's where I think we're going to make the biggest impact. TikTok, I've said this before, is great for connecting people so that we find the support that we need in the community that we're already in. YouTube is where I think we will be able to have the biggest impact in making the most noise and raising the most awareness outside of the communities in which we are a part of, because right now we're basically preaching to the choir that we're already part of. And awareness only works really if we are reaching the groups outside of the people who are already affected with and are living with the conditions we're talking about. So with that, I'm going to get going because I got to walk my dogs for potty super quick. I get my daughter a drink because she's still up, because she's used to staying up to make sure I don't have a reaction and she doesn't have to epi me. Sorry. And get in bed. Yeah, and I'll rescue Med before I go to bed, because now it's late enough that I think I can do that. For the people hanging out on YouTube, I love you. I appreciate you. You're my heroes. Please leave a comment. I appreciate you so much, and I would love to see you in the Patreon, because I definitely want to start sharing more information and more personal updates with you guys, and kind of discuss some of the things that I can't necessarily discuss publicly. And the more support I have, the better equipment I can upgrade to. I need to get a better camera and stop just iPhoning, everything. Because I can't afford to just go out and buy this stuff. So I'm doing the best I can with what I've got for now. But I appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much. And Pix, thanks for watching. I appreciate you too. Everybody have a good night. Stay safe. I hope you have a boring day. I hope you have a flare-free day. And I hope that even a tiny bit of what I said and shared is able to help you. Stay tuned, because tomorrow afternoon I will go into this video on YouTube and I will link all the sources that I cited so that you can go through and read. And that's what you take to your doctor if you need to, because that's what they're going to listen to, peer-reviewed research. And if they won't listen to peer-reviewed research, I'm not telling you to find a new doctor. I'm not telling you anything. I'm just telling you that I would. Because I have. Because I'm worth a medical provider actually listening to what I have to say, because I'm the one living in this body. And so are you. You are worth respect. You are worth listening to. You are worth being heard. If you're having physical, obvious symptoms that can be seen and aren't necessarily explained by anything the doctors have said, and they're refusing to do more, and they're just looking at tryptase and food testing and going, it's obviously all in your head. It might not be. It might be. It might be a combination of things. And you know what? The last thing I'm going to say is anxiety isn't always a diagnosis. Anxiety is sometimes a symptom of the actual diagnosis that the doctors aren't looking at. Okay? Take that into consideration. Have a good night. Stay safe. And keep fighting for yourself, because you're worth it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. All right. Okay. Well, I am good to go. I'm going to head out for the night so I can get some sleep. And I'm going to take my daughter a drink to help, a warm drink to help her sleep. And I will stop in tomorrow to do, hopefully, a non-ADHD read of a couple of articles. Right. Yeah. I'm going to try and stick 20 minutes or less per video. If I set a timer, it should be better. I've got major time blindness because of the ADHD, and it's not medicated right now. So, like, just full disclosure, I'm a squirrel on too much coffee right now. When I scroll up, it's wearing a glittery skirt, lots of sparkles. It's very distracting. Okay, so anyway, have a good night. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you have topics you'd like me to discuss that you haven't seen in my playlists, let me know. And please check out my link tree. And if you'd like to join my community, the more of you that I can connect with and work with, the more we can make noise and bring awareness to the conditions that we are living with. Sweet dreams, and I hope you have a very, very, very boring, flare-free, pain-free, allergic reaction-free day. See you later.